CinemaSins decided to send the best Indiana Jones movie.
Indy. Indy. What are they doing? Indiana. Indiana.
God damn it, kid. We get it already. That's young Indiana Jones.
Dude, Indy was ignoring him. It makes sense for him to say his name multiple times. Besides, he's a kid. Haven't you seen kids trying to get their parents' attention before?
Just tell Mr. Havelock that there are men living in the caves. Have him bring the sheriff.
How far away is the sheriff, though? He's not, like, right nearby.
You know he has a horse, right? He can simply use that to get there faster.
He's got our thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest piece of dialogue ever written. He's got our thing.
Ah, come on. It's not any worse than this.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
I am obligated to send this car driving over this terrain without incident.
Are you suggesting this is some really good 1989 CGI or something? Because that car is clearly driving on that terrain just fine.
Somehow Indy hides in this coffin in the magic car of the train, and that ends up with him running away from the train? There's no way this magic box prop is designed to work with the floor while inside a train car in transit. So however it works to make the magician invisible, it can't even theoretically send him outside the train entirely. At least not in a way where he's not also run over by said train.
As you said in your Everything Wrong with CinemaSins Volume 2 video, the answer is magic. I mean, this universe literally confirms that magic exists, so...
This train is moving slow enough, and that cross is worth enough money that some or all of these thieves should be jumping off the train right now to pursue.
Can you play the whole scene here? Garth is shown on screen to be impressed with young Indy, and you cut it!
I brought the sheriff.
But he didn't bring a deputy.
What even was that?
Also, how did Herman know to come back to the Jones residence? Wasn't he supposed to bring people back to the mountain? Did news of the circus train get back that quickly?
I'm fairly certain Herman knows Indy well enough to figure out that a chase would ensue, and Indy would run back to his father, since he understands how important this cross is.
So Indy's signature hat look came from a thief who bought out the local cops to steal back a cross teen Indy took from him? That's disappointing.
You know Garth is also an archaeologist, right? Since he found the cross in the first place, I feel like this works well enough.
This asshole grabs the cross and is entirely too happy about getting it when he's still got bad guys to contend with on a boat in the middle of the goddamn ocean during a storm.
Indy later comments that he's been trying to find his cross for 26 years. Yeah, I feel like he would get a little emotional after finally finding it.
Marcus, I did it.
You've got it.
Yes, I wanted to teach a class first before bringing you this monumental discovery. Didn't have time to do it beforehand. Just got off the Carpathia 15 minutes before the morning bell.
Are you suggesting Indy should have checked in with Marcus before work?
Indiana kept the cross of Coronado in a f***ing unlocked drawer the whole time instead of a safe. He's been through entirely too much shit over this cross just to leave it exposed like that.
Well, he is standing in front of the desk the entire time, and it's obvious he expected Marcus to come in so he can show him the cross.
The movie vastly overestimates Dr. Jones' popularity. Why the hell would so many people be eager to talk to him? Did someone time travel to 1989 to find films of his exploits?
Why are you lying about a movie that practically everyone has seen? Indy has work to do, and he's ignoring it.
I am so glad you're back. Your mail is on your desk. Here are your phone messages. This is your appointment schedule, and these turntables still haven't been graded.
Irene, put everybody's name on a list in the order they arrive. And I'll see each and every one of them in turn.
An old man's dream.
Every man's dream, including your father's, I believe.
By the way, your dad is missing. I won't tell you until the end of this scene. Anyway, you ever see that John Cleese movie about the Holy Grail? We are the knights who say knee, ha ha ha!
Why would Donovan tell Indy that right now? If you watch the movie for a few more minutes, Donovan goes on to explain the two markers that the knights left behind and that his father tried finding the second marker, which is the best time to bring that up.
After the Grail was entrusted to Joseph of Arimathea, it disappeared and was lost for 1,000 years before it was found again by 3 knights.
Before it was found again is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Where, when, and how was that found again?
Does it matter? Because I don't think it does for this movie's story.
This is the manuscript in which the friar chronicled the knight's story.
Holy shit! There's an actual document of the night story of the Holy Grail, and it's not from some sort of bedtime story as Indy keeps derisively calling it? Where do you find that shit? Isn't the discovery of the document huge in itself? Indy doesn't even bother to ask about it.
I mean, yeah, it's huge. The whole plot of this movie doesn't happen if they never found the manuscript. And again, why does that matter? Do you want this movie to be longer to answer all these questions?
We're only one step away.
It's usually when the ground falls out from underneath your feet.
For quickening.
Foreshadowing is a sin, I guess.
Why don't you try my father?
We already have. Your father is the man who's disappeared.
Oh, silly me. I should have mentioned this at the very beginning. Well, anyway, I'm definitely not a villain.
You already said this a few cents ago. No wonder this video is almost 25 freaking minutes long.
It's Dad's Grail Diary. Why would he have sent this to me?
Good question. Since we find out later he sent it so the bad guys wouldn't get it, which you'd think he'd mention in a note somewhere instead of making Indy guess. Anyway, that probably wouldn't be a movie if he did, so yay, movie.
Why did you start with good question? You literally answered that question, being that Henry gave it to him to get it away from the Nazis. Not to mention, when Henry finds out that Indy brought the journal with him, he thinks that was a stupid decision, which it was, so Indy should have realized that too.
Do you believe the Grail actually exists?
The search for the cup of Christ is the search for the divine in all of us.
Classic example of not answering the question.
Seriously, stop lying to your audience. Marcus literally answers Indy's question right after he says this.
Do you believe the Grail actually exists?
The search for the cup of Christ is the search for the divine in all of us. But if you want facts, Indy, I've none to give you. At my age, I'm prepared to take a few things on faith.
How will we recognize this Dr. Schneider when we see him?
Amazing that Donovan didn't tell them that Dr. Schneider was some hot lady. He played an early version of that game where people try to show you how sexist you are when they tell you the riddle of the son and his father who are badly injured and are sent to the hospital, where the doctor says they can't operate on the kid because he's my son, and you're so baffled because the father was clearly taken into surgery, but then you say, oh, I know, the kid has two dads. One is a doctor and the other is a clumsy You almost made me say the mom was a doctor. Holy how embarrassing would that have been?
Have I mentioned how long this video is? Also, that doesn't matter, since Elsa introduces herself, which is a scene you were making that long-winded joke over.
Now, please excuse me. The library is closing in a few moments. I'll arrange for us to stay a little longer.
Is there any reason you didn't make these arrangements on the way in? Would he not find where to dig if you were still in the room?
What do those two questions have anything to do with each other?
Love the scene where Indy climbs to the second story in order to be able to see an X on the floor that anyone on the first floor could have easily seen.
Well, Indy literally did see the X, which is why he climbed up to the second floor so he could get a better view. Especially since in this shot that's closer to the floor, the X is less explicit.
Also, Indy isn't exactly timing this on purpose. So what was his plan if security or police came in? This is a great comedy bit, and it makes us forget about what a problem this would be. But guess what, f***ers? I created a YouTube channel 23 years after this movie was made, so I could totally ignore that.
Sending something you like.
This is the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword, who I guess have a fire station-style headquarters here in this library in case they get word that someone is f***ing with the X on the floor. I'd love to know how they got informed of this, and what their hours are like.
And here you are asking for more irrelevant details. This movie is still fantastic, even without knowing how they knew about this.
What's this one?
The Ark of the Covenant.
I'm surprised there isn't a Temple of Doom drawn somewhere in these catacombs.
Considering the Ark came from the Bible and the Temple of Doom didn't.
Instead of just having her take off her heels, movie decides to throw her over the strong man's shoulder, ass facing the camera, because this movie is for the manly men.
Ironic, coming from the same channel that had a lot of "this lady isn't my girlfriend" jokes in your older videos.
In this dark-ass tomb filled with petroleum, Indy is able to see down here as if there are natural lights down here, and it's just plain water.
Yeah, let's just ignore the literal fire that's on top of the petroleum.
Why are these assholes running out of the building like they know where Indy and Elsa went? They burned the river of petroleum, and there's no way they could have walked down to confirm whether they were dead or not, or that they found a magic sewer connection down in the tube.
I'm pretty sure they knew about the sewer connection. I mean, these guys are meant to guard the Grail's location. Why would they know about it? They could just be looking just in case Indy and Elsa made it out.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them!
Go between them, are you crazy?
Hilarious miscommunication, but what the was Elsa doing? If she thought going in between them was crazy, then why was she aiming the boat that way?
She would have obviously moved the boat around the ships if Indy didn't say anything. I can't believe I have to explain that.
Ask yourself, why do you seek the cup of Christ?
Because the people who last had it wrote down instructions on how to find it.
You know that's not what he's referring to, right? This cup gives you eternal life. I'm fairly certain that's something selfish men would want.
Marcus, you remember what the Grail tablet said?
You talk about the Grail tablet as if an etching of it isn't sitting right in front of you. You don't have to remember what it said. It's right there.
I doubt Marcus knows how to read the language on it, though.
This room is trashed. He was literally across the hall and would definitely have heard this happening.
Since we later find out that Elsa was searching for Henry's journal, I'm fairly certain she would have made sure to keep quiet.
Since I met you, I've nearly been incinerated, drowned, shot at, and chopped into fish bait.
Yes, this is true, but wouldn't all of those things have happened anyway if Indy's dad had put the scrap of paper with the Roman numerals on it inside the Grail diary?
No? Indy didn't know that the tomb was under that library until Elsa took him there. What are you talking about?
Alexandra, of course. On the pilgrim trail from the Eastern Empire.
It sounds like you could have figured out where the Grail was by the process of elimination. I mean, I'd want to know for a fact what city to start from before going on a journey too, but someone who's been obsessed with the Grail for this long might have deduced this without the second marker.
But wouldn't you want confirmation from the source?
What the hell took these guys so long? Did they read the script?
It probably took us a little bit to get the Nazis to come in and then stage that hostage situation.
I can't believe I've never noticed this random hair, probably Elsa's, stuck in Indy's chin stubble. Now I will never not see it.
CinemaSins, ladies and gentlemen. No wonder this video barely has 1 million views.
Okay, so this ramp is a trick that goes into a truck instead of a building, but I have questions. How did they know that Brody and Sala would shake off the two men in the black suits? How did they know the pair would then run this direction and absolutely for certain choose this ramp as the escape option? Also, why were 2 bowls of peppers holding this door down? This is a fucking waste of delicious peppers.
So those first 2 questions were actually okay, but then you asked why these baskets are holding the door down. Are you seriously suggesting the door would have gone up if the baskets weren't there?
How the f*** did the Joneses, especially the older one, get up there? I mean, I'm happy they found a way, but I'm just happier to call it bullshit.
Setting something you like.
Not going on the boat!
Pretty f***ing obvious no one is on that boat, but sure, send this entire squad to go after it.
They don't want to lose the Joneses. I'd rush over there as fast as I can, too.
This dude waited way too long to attempt to shoot.
He says, even though Indy hit him right before he could pull the trigger.
Also, they stop on the side of the road and literally turn off the bike to have a chat, as though none of the dudes that were chasing them will keep chasing them, or no other guards will ever show up in pursuit. You guys are wanted dead by the main f***ing guy in that outfit.
Those 4 cyclists that were chasing them are either dead or knocked out, and they're pretty far away from the Nazi base at this point, so I'd say they're pretty safe here for now.
But I found the clues that will safely take us through in the Chronicles of St. Anselm.
Well, what are they?
I wrote them down in my diary so that I wouldn't have to remember.
Henry Jones's character is that he's so obsessed with finding the Grail that he's spent a lifetime studying it, practically neglecting fatherhood to do so. I guarantee he didn't write down the clues only to never look at them again, but I guess it's off to Berlin for f***'s sake.
I mean, this guy is getting old and has done a ton of research. I'm fairly certain he'd forget some details.
The armies of darkness will march all over the face of the earth.
Doesn't the Grail just, keep you young? I don't think you can clone people with it, for instance. And I don't think it helps if you get blown up by a bomb or a grenade. I guess I'm struggling to see how the thing would create an unbeatable army of the damned.
The Grail makes you freaking immortal, dude. Like, imagine if Hitler drank it and never committed suicide.
This is something Spielberg is extremely good at, and that's using subtle camera placement and movement to give you the whole deal without forcing unneeded dialogue. We know that Indy has knocked out a guard, hidden the body, and stolen his uniform to blend in, and the camera just started in the right place and gently lifted to the next right place. If this was a Marvel movie, they not only would have felt compelled to show us the guard being knocked out, but they'd also cut it to death. But also, how did they cross the border into Germany and deep into Berlin without getting caught? A middle-aged guy wearing a fedora and an old guy driving around on a motorcycle with a sidecar shouldn't be that hard to radio in.
I appreciate the sin removal, but then you undermine that by asking a dumb question. This is Indiana Jones we're talking about here. I'm fairly certain he's smart enough to abandon the motorcycle and sneak in with his dad.
All I have to do is squeeze.
All I have to do is scream.
Not if you're getting strangled, Elsa. Besides, with all the noise and shit, I doubt you would be heard anyway.
Do you know how loud a woman's scream can be? And besides, some of the Nazis are closer to them than others. I'm sure they'd hear her.
He's not in the shot, but Tom Cruise actually learned how to fly a real World War II era biplane for this movie.
Wait, that was it? A joke about Tom Cruise? That wasn't even funny?
Damn, I knew this guy was distracted by the plane flying overhead, but I didn't realize he was so distracted that he could miss 2 people jumping into his car before the car even started.
So you're just pointing out that this guy was distracted? Okay.
Now, how did you know there was a tunnel around that corner?
Because he saw the tunnel?
Now they have the map,
And in this sort of race, there's no silver medal for finishing second.
Yes, but they don't have any idea about the 3 challenges they're going to face. You could technically just let them all die trying to get the Grail. I guess you still have to save Brody, but they clearly can't get the Grail without the diary. You've had God knows how many hours to plan for this. And your best idea is, well, maybe we can beat them to the location before they get there.
So you are right about the fact that Donovan doesn't know about the 3 challenges, and I would have let this sin slide. But then you went on to ask why they didn't plan this ahead of time. Like, they don't even know they have a tank at this point. How would they have anticipated that? I wouldn't say them getting to the Grail first is a plan, more so a goal.
Also, this motherfucker is too smart to be this dumb.
Just because Indy is smart doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes.
I just don't understand the purpose of this Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword. They're dedicated to protecting the Grail, sure, but why? Do they not know what kind of shit you have to go through to get it? The 3 challenges and the secret 4th one are the defense. People are allowed to do this. The Grail Knights wouldn't have set this up otherwise. Maybe they don't know about the challenges, but that raises even more questions.
Like what? Oh, you're not going to ask those questions? Okay.
The Wilhelm line has been protecting the Holy Grail for 1,000 years.
Sinning the Wilhelm scream.
Man, these guys had the high ground and it didn't do shit to help them.
Neither did it for Darth Maul.
And he puts so much stock in this working that he willingly puts himself in the line of fire in a minute. And yeah, of course it works, but that's not the fucking point.
Didn't you earlier claim that Indy is super smart? Now you're saying he's too confident in this?
Apparently, the guy guarding Indy's dad has absolutely no interest in what's going on just above him and completely misses a whole-ass gun getting dropped within Henry's reach.
Well, he's got a gun pointing straight at Henry, so he literally can't do anything right now, even if he wanted to.
Mad Max, hurry slow.
Arbitrary movie reference.
The ricocheting bullet kills the tank driver, who slumps onto the controls and causes the tank to veer strongly to the right, saving Indy's life. If not for the randomness of the math of ricocheting bullets, Indy dies here and now. Indy is so lucky he should quit archaeology and go into professional gambling.
So luck is a sin, I take it?
Why would this ancient architecture carved into a cavern wall be so pristine and undiscovered?
This one comment in your video said to Google this, so I did, and turns out this is way more realistic than you think.
This guy casually gut shots Indy's dad to convince Indy to go do Grail shit, but he could easily have killed Pappy Indy here. I mean, he definitely probably killed him long term, because stomach wounds are notorious for bleeding out. But I mean, just by how casually he hip-fired that weapon without aiming, that's bad form.
You know that Donovan is doing this to get Indy to look for the Grail, which can heal him. And Googling that too, gunshot wounds don't kill you instantly. It's a slow, painful process.
The healing power of the Grail is the only thing that can save your father now. It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
The Grail keeps you young. The Grail heals all wounds. The Grail gets good grades. The Grail time travels and keeps your mom from being murdered. The Grail does all.
Yelling at the screen.
Is humble. Kneels before God.
Kneels! So he kneels and dodges the blade that would have cut off his head. But what is this asshole blade that comes from the ground? So does the penitent man kneel or stop, drop, and roll for God? Also, you not only have to solve the riddle of the kneeling, you have to time it perfectly. And that's just not sporting whatsoever. This riddle is hard unless you see 2 decapitated guys right in front of you. I say Indy cheated by virtue of outside information.
Even if there weren't headless guys there, I'm sure Indy could figure out what only the penitent man will pass meant.
Why didn't the booby trap makers anticipate the evil people who would follow the puzzle solvers into the Vault of Awesome?
You literally showed Indy disabling the trap.
The forced perspective of this optical illusion bridge is pretty neat, but the Grail Knights are total dicks for not making this wider and less nopey.
Sending something you like.
Knew you would come.
Really? Why did you make so many booby traps then?
Probably because he'd figured that he'd get through them all.
But as the true Grail will bring you life, false Grail will take it from you.
I'm completely down with a Grail that belonged to Jesus Christ giving you renewed life, but I'm not down with a false Grail ending it. Anything like that would need to be set up by the Grail Knights, aka not warlocks. They created 3 practical challenges for this quest. Maybe they laced all the false Grails with a poison that instantly ages you, but I think the movie wants us to believe it's some punishment brought by God, which makes no sense either. According to this movie, the Grail was found by these knights 1,000 years after Joseph of Arimathea lost it. There was no particular quest attached to it. Anyone who found it could use it, but these assholes decided, let's make a game, an impossible game. Nay, an impossible game where even if you do nearly everything right, we'll kill your ass if you can't pick the right Grail out of a lineup. It's very Christian of us.
Again, this cup makes you freaking immortal. I think it makes sense to have fake cups, so anyone evil who drinks it dies instantly. And sure, I can buy that God is punishing them. I mean, he did kill Nazis with the Ark and Raiders.
He chose poorly.
Well, she chose poorly. Donovan just went with it. But God lived by the immortal words of Rush. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Isn't it obvious that Elsa intentionally chose the wrong cup so she can kill Donovan?
That's the cup of a carpenter.
This is the only cup in the whole place that isn't made of some sort of precious metal. I'm kind of surprised these jerkwad knights didn't throw in 5 other grails that could have been made by a carpenter. I'm surprised the grail knight didn't run over and throw a bunch of exact replicas up in the air while knocking the real grail out of Indy's hands. Feel free to make a guess, jerk off.
Didn't you earlier say you liked the idea that the cup came from a carpenter? How do you not understand that most people would assume it's a cup that would belong to a king, not to a carpenter? It's the last thing a villain would have expected, especially since everyone thought that Jesus would lead an army and kill all the Romans instead of dying on that cross. This perfectly lines up with that.
The Grail cannot pass beyond the Great Seal. That is the boundary and the price of immortality.
Besides, why should there be any proof of God anywhere? How would that help the world? Attracting followers through faith alone has worked so well so far.
I mean, it has. Christianity has been around for thousands of years, buddy.
Why does Indy even have to pour the water on the bullet wound? Why didn't the drinking heal it? And holy shit, what a waste of magical water. Everybody except the bad guys should have had a drink.
Why? Sala and Marcus have never shown any desire to be immortal.
It's ours, Indy. Yours and mine.
Elsa's not a good person, no matter how much the movie tried to redeem her since the moment they left Castle Grayskull. But considering the choices made with her character in the latter half, I find it incredibly disorienting that she turns into Grail Gollum at the end.
Well, she is a literal Nazi.
I would have removed every sin if the Grail Knight flipped him off instead.
No, you wouldn't.
What did you find, Dad?
Me, illumination.
Papa Jones is responsible for all those terrible Despicable Me movies.
You take that back right now. Despicable Me 1 is literally their best movie, even more than Mario.
We named the dog Indiana.
You are named after the dog.
The movie comes up with the terrible origin story for Indy's name that rivals the terrible origin story for Nick Fury's Scar.
Screw you. I love this reveal, and it's leagues better than the Empire giving Han the name Solo.